the future unfold. Decentralized, let your voice be heard. Everybody joins the crypto world. From wallets cold to markets high, together we'll reach the sky. Knowledge share the guide, daylight. Invest with wisdom, shine so bright. Our alliance stands for liberty, shaping dreams into reality. A movement born in unity.
All right, we're gonna get started here in a minute. It looks like we have our first 2 live viewers with us. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let me know from where you are tuning in. Let me know from where you're tuning in. Also, let me know how things are going. I know it's Juneteenth in the US, so it's maybe a little bit slower for some of you because it is a holiday. Not that everybody observed the holiday, but at the very least, we can already see that impact the markets. Definitely not much going on in crypto today. But yeah, it's good to see so many of you. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Today is a very, very important stream because I'm going to investigate a little bit. Does it make sense to maybe invest the traditional way here in the US known as the IRAs, or could Bitcoin be an interesting alternative? And quite frankly, I have to tell you that I think this banner here is very important for today's stream, is that this is not financial advice because I'm not a financial advisor. I'm really just someone who likes taking risk in life and who believes that when you take calculated risk, you can have extremely nice outcomes. And one of those risks that I believe is calculated, but still reasonable enough to go through with, is to consider using Bitcoin as the asset to build up your retirement funds. A lot of you might be in a situation where you tell yourselves, well, yes, I know I should have been saving, but I didn't. And now I find myself somewhere in the middle of my life, right? Let's say 40, 50. I know what your lifespan is. Hopefully it is very, very long and healthy life. But let's just take my own example. I am a businessman and I have always favored investing into my business. Of course, I have set aside a little bit for my retirement, but I would like to have more. Business people very often prioritize investing into themselves, and business people also prioritize investing into their businesses. It's the right thing to do, right? But we always have at some level this idea, well, what's going to be in 20 years, 25 years? What's going to be once I want to slow down a little bit, like maybe ease into retirement, right? So if that is all something you've been thinking about, let me know in the comments so I know I'm not alone, and so other viewers know they're not alone. Okay. So Andrea of course says we will have long lives, God willing. Yes, I believe that everyone here on the stream, we will have long, prosperous, and healthy lives. And wow, there's 37 of you watching, and I right now will take a moment because Andrea has taught me that whenever you send out energies, even on a live stream, they impact people. So I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to declare that all of you here watching this live stream will have long, happy, and prosperous lives. you will be in perfect alignment with health, wealth, and also happiness. That is really what matters to Andrea and I, and we live that. We call it, or I call it, crypto lifestyle. Sometimes Andrea likes to call it something else, but you know what? That is perfect. Andrea and I are in perfect harmony to equip everyone with what is needed to live healthy, happy, and prosperous lives. So, in case you want to learn more about what Andrea does, mindset, and also just this strong, healthy intention setting, what you can do is you can go to our website and tap into her resources. Let me just blend that in for you. We have a website for our alliance. It's mycryptoalliance.com. So you go there and then you go to the resources section. You can sign up for that. If you need more zen in your life, if you need more calm in your life, because that is very important for your wealth building, there I say, because when you get into trouble financially, it all boils down to finding your center, not giving up, not panicking. And that is what Andrea does for you. Again, go to mycryptoalliance.com and again, go look for the resources. If, however, you're a little bit more interested in the money making part, then you go to crypto.lifestyle. It's blended in right now, crypto.lifestyle. And I'll show you exactly how I manage this whole crypto cash flow thing. You're actually in luck. I decided today, live again, I will show you how I claim my daily funds on my liquidity position, which right now amounts to almost $500. And I already did that recently, I think 2 or 3 days ago. But the beautiful thing is I can do it every day. And I'll show you as often as I can claiming those funds live so that you can see that I'm walking my own talk. That is very important to me. So we have also Andrea on Kick with her little emoji here that has the what do you call that? The halo, I believe, the halo, right? All right, sound good? Everybody ready to learn? I also have a beautiful presentation for you today. And in that presentation, we're going to go into analyzing what is a good time to start saving up for your retirement. We're going to compare a traditional approach, probably investing in the S&P 500 or something like that, versus Bitcoin. We're going to look at what age you should ideally start. But I will tell you, if there is a lump sum that can be invested, that is always a good idea, at least for Bitcoin. We'll look at that. Now, let me tell you again, I'm not a financial advisor. I have to really repeat this often because otherwise today's stream might get me in trouble. This is what I, for educational purposes, share with you, but you need to ultimately go and review that information with a financial advisor, someone who went to school or someone who is accredited to give you financial advice. That is not me. All right? Do we have a deal? Do we have a deal? Okay, so the IRA is for old people, Tony says. Yeah, we'll see. We'll investigate exactly that. For those of you who don't know what an IRA is, by the way, it is something that only pertains to the United States, by the way, but it's essentially a legal concept where the government rewards you for being a saver throughout your lifetime. And they reward you by letting you only pay tax at the end of your lifespan when you actually tap into those retirement savings, income tax, right? There is also something called a Roth IRA. You can basically turn it around. You say, hey, I want to pay my tax in advance. So, and then at the end of my life, or at the end of my life, at the start of my retirement, I don't have to worry about that anymore. That's a Roth IRA. So, and actually, wait, it might be the exact way around, right? Let me see. Let me think about that for a moment. Yes, the normal IRA, you pay tax. See, that's why I'm not a financial advisor. Exactly. I'm just gonna tell you that it is for a lot of people what they're being told to do is certainly not a stupid thing to save up for your retirement, but we're going to investigate whether there are better ways to do it. All right. So let me go to the cloning. Let me go to the claiming now of my DeFi liquidity position. If this is something that you want to learn how to do, then this course here that is blended in, this URL that is blended in crypto.lifestyle is for you, because you can go there and I basically explain how I have managed to replace a 6-figure income from my businesses entirely. I'm repeating, entirely with crypto. Okay. So again, I'm not a financial advisor, but I'm showing you what I'm living every single day. So in this platform, you can see we have claimable funds here, $485. And as I scroll up, you can also see here that that is actually a daily figure. How cool would it be to wake up with about $300 to claim every single day? Pretty cool, right? But here's the thing, you need to learn how to do all of that. And that is why I have my free 4-part cash flow series for you. All you need to do is go to crypto.lifestyle, enter your information, and then you're good to go. So what I will do now is I will come down here again and I will click this claim button. And then something will happen that you will not be able to see because of the way I'm sharing my screen. But as I click this claim button, I have my wallet popping up on my screen. Actually, I can show you like this, just so, for security purposes, you don't see all of it. But here I have my wallet and it shows here, see, we're about to transfer $485 into your self-custody wallet. So all I have to do is approve this transaction here is being approved, and pay attention now to the dollar amount here is going to drop to 0. It just did. Okay, so it was 485. Now it is 0. Where has the money gone? Into my self-custody wallet. In case you are asking yourself, well, dang, I don't know what he's talking about there with self-custody wallets and DeFi stuff. That is why I have the course. Go to crypto.lifestyle and then you can learn about that. Okay, so Tony is a little bit more prepared here with the IRA stuff. So let's see what he says. The Roth IRA, when you're 59 and a half and take out, there's no tax. There we go. So the regular IRA, you get taxed at 59 and a half when you take it out. That is exactly how it is. So essentially, it is a decision between, do I pay my tax now or do I pay my tax later? And this is all fine. It's definitely, go talk to your financial advisor. They will let you know what's best for you. But I have a problem with the government telling me what I can do with my savings in the first place, and also when I can do stuff with my savings in the first place. Because the way this works is that you're going to get penalized if penalized if you do this too early. You take out your money too early. Anyway, it is, again, it's a good thing for a lot of people, but of course I am here totally a crypto head, right? And I'm all about thinking, how can I get amazing returns focusing on Bitcoin instead of the traditional approach? So, and I put a lot of time into a slideshow that we will go through here together. We have 55 viewers on the live stream, and you're gonna love my slideshow presentation because I have a somewhat academic approach to it. So it's not this like hype stuff. It is, let's look at the facts, a little bit skewed towards crypto, but I'm gonna do my best to be as impartial as possible, okay? I promise you also that I'll show you nothing that I wouldn't apply or am not applying to my own life. Do we have a deal? Please let me know in the comments, where are you tuning in from? It is so exciting to see 58 of you here with me on the stream. Absolutely amazing. Let me know where you're tuning in from. That's really, really cool. I'm happy that on Juneteenth, you are taking some time to educate yourselves about what's possible with Bitcoin and how it could potentially be your way to a much better retirement situation than you could ever have imagined for yourselves. Because maybe you just start a little bit late with the saving, right? Okay, so let's see. We have Tony here, very engaged. If you want a home, couple supercars, a baddie at home to go sleep with, buy now. The more research you do, the more bullish you'll be. Use your common sense. Let's all be rich. Yes, Tony, I think you and I are on the same page. Okay. And Andrea says, free ourselves from the faulty fiat system. Yes, we are Bitcoiners here. We are Bitcoiners. Okay, great. Again, anything that follows here is not financial advice. So let me also visually blend it in, and then I'll be back. Okay, you get the idea, right? Not financial advice. Not financial advice. Okay, it is time for our beautiful presentation. I think you're gonna like it a lot. You're gonna learn a lot from it. Let me know if you can see it. It should say IRA versus Bitcoin. And of course, IRA standing here as a synonym for investing in traditional vehicles throughout your life. Okay, that's what essentially it is. The information also applies for Europeans or Africans or Asians, right? It's just here in the United States, we call IRA this legal structure where you can do tax deferred savings. But again, the problem that I have with it is that the government is trying to tell you when and what you can do with your money, which is something I personally don't like. Definitely put your questions in the chat as we move through this, okay? So let me see if my annotation tool works. Yeah, beautiful. I love this. Okay, very nice. So we're looking at comparing an IRA investment versus Bitcoin investment. And what we will find out is that the starting age matters a lot. So it matters a lot when you start saving. Now, for those of you who may already be at a more advanced age, don't get desperate, because I will show you there's also the lump sum investing approach that is still favorable. You know, So let's not go ahead of ourselves and look at this. So why am I talking about $7,000 annual contributions? Because that is the only way to compare this approach in a fair manner, because the IRA only lets you contribute $7,000 a year, at least to my knowledge. Now, there are going to be exceptions when you're married or when you have dependents, or like there's ways to increase that, right? But the base case is $7,000 a year. So we're going to look at how is your investment changing and growing over your lifetime as you save, and we're going to base all of that on historical numbers, so data that I'm not pulling out of thin air, but I've researched what's the average growth of the stock market, and then also we're going to look at what is the average growth of Bitcoin. Now, one thing that is important to understand with Bitcoin is that at the beginning, it grows much faster than it will in the future, but we have also factored that in, okay? Also factored that in. You're going to find out we have a very, very conservative approach to this. So here we have the fair comparison setup. As I said, equal 7,000 annual contributions to both strategies. And then the return assumptions are based on historical data. So a conservative approach for an IRA investment, 7% annually, and then 10% for moderate, 12% for optimistic. With Bitcoin, 15% compound annual growth rate is conservative, 25% moderate, and 40% optimistic, but also realistic, to be quite honest. So, I mean, I could stop right here, right? I mean, we have just those numbers that already paint quite a clear picture and should kind of hint at what the outcome will be. So we will isolate the pure investment performance with the two different approaches. And then also we'll find out that the starting age is very, very critical, of course, as well. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so assuming that most people want to retire at the age of 65, and assuming that you have the chance to start at age 40, okay, so we'll look at what your funds would be at age 65. Also, we'll assume you start at age 40. You can see here that this gray box or this gray rectangle represents your total contributions. And then this blue rectangle represents how much you would have saved after 25 years going the traditional investment path with an IRA, which is a basket of stocks for the most part. And as you go into closer to your retirement, and depending on what investment strategy you have, you will actually invest more in bonds, because bonds are considered a safer, stabler investment. Then you have our big yellow rectangle here, which is what Bitcoin could do for you at 25%, which is conservative, right? So we have this Bitcoin advantage that is by a factor of 10.7x on the moderate return assumptions, okay? That is huge. That is huge. Imagine you go into retirement with $7 million available to you versus not even 1 million. And if you talk to people who are actually financial advisors, and I actually am not a financial advisor, I cannot stress this often enough, but they say that you should have at the very least $1 million set aside for your retirement, right? Because at least if we want to have a retirement that is fun, where we travel and we go out and eat often, we also have funds to look after our health, because we might need more healthcare in the future. Actually, I will tell you, this whole slideshow came out of an article I read this morning that was basically discussing parts of this big, beautiful bill that President Trump is planning. And what many don't know is that he is very conscientious of the fact that the social security system in the US is not necessarily set up to meet the expectations or meet the promises he's currently making, right? So what is he doing as a business savvy man? He is lowering the liabilities that Medicare and Medicaid will have to pay out in the future. Now, that is, of course, good from a treasury perspective, but for the individual, it's a problem, because a lot of seniors that actually are upper middle class, they are still relying on that income. They are still relying on that. It's a nice side income. So you don't even have to be a low income senior to be impacted. The middle class and the upper middle class will see a dire situation here if this legislation moves forward. And I think it will, because it has to. You can simply not pay someone out of an empty pocket, right? Now, let alone what the impact will be on the low income population. That is why I personally think it is so important to take things into our own hands, right? And invest into assets that will increase in value. And there's lots of options. You can go the AI route, you can go the commodities route, you can go precious metals. And of course, I have a strong bias for Bitcoin. Now, you don't need to put all of your eggs in your basket. You can be diversified. As a matter of fact, I should probably say you should be diversified. But you can also choose to be like me and not diversify, right? So let me see, before I go to the next slide, let me look at a few comments here, because I do see that you are very, very engaged. So I love that. Quantum Queso says Bitcoin has a 65% compound annual growth rate. Yes, Quantum, that is correct. I just chose to be ultra conservative on this stream, but you are absolutely right that assuming at least 35 to 40% compound annual growth rates is probably much more realistic. But how cool is this? If it works with the 25%, then it's even better with anything that is higher. Tony says Bitcoin is outperforms all real estate, business, IRA, Roth or simple stocks, everything. I agree with you, Tony. We are on the same page. Since 2009, Bitcoin has been the best of all asset classes. And then Quantum says Bitcoin ETFs are good if you don't want to worry about cold storage. Yes, that's true. I believe also in self-custody. But I recognize that not everybody is set up for self-custody, which is why Bitcoin ETFs are indeed a good solution for those folks. Now, I'm also telling you, if you want to learn about self-custody, go and take the class here on the crypto.lifestyle. It's a landing page. You go there, type in your name. I'm the only person who gets your information, by the way. And in return, you get a free 4-part series of videos that tell you essentially how I cash flow, how I replaced a 6-figure income from my businesses to crypto now. So please do that so you can be informed. Let's see what else. Okay, so essentially, Tony, he is very much in favor of Bitcoin, just like I am. Great. We're on the same page. Let's continue. So this is a very interesting slide here, the starting age effect, why time horizon changes everything. So as we look at this chart here on the horizontal axis, the x-axis, we have the starting age, and then on the y-axis, the vertical axis, we have the portfolio value at age 65 in millions. Okay, so it is not surprising to basically see the earlier you start saving, the more money you will have when you are ready for retirement. Again, assuming a $7,000 per year contribution, and then of course not touching it again. We have our IRA portfolio represented here in blue. Okay, and then we have our Bitcoin portfolio represented in yellow. And yeah, I mean, essentially, it says here, if you start investing $7,000 per year into Bitcoin, you have a 99x advantage over the traditional route. In other words, you can have $411 million or you can have $4 million. So this is really the beauty of understanding this stuff early. I wish someone had come to me at age 22 and I would really have understood this, because let's be honest, even if you were too scared about Bitcoin, you would start investing. You'd be a millionaire when you're retired, right? So, but I know that is someone on the stream here 22? I'd be very curious to know. We have 71 people watching this right now. Is someone here 22 or younger? And are you gonna apply this? Because I want to be your best friend. Because you're gonna be well set up to really have a cool life. If you are more like me, I'm here close to, actually, I'll turn 43 here next month, but let's just say I definitely fall in this category, right? I still have an 11x advantage going the Bitcoin route over the traditional investing. So do I want to retire with 7.4 million, or do I want to retire with 688K? Which is not enough. You need to have at least $1 million in savings to have a decent retirement, where you can splurge a little bit, you can go eat out, you can travel, you have enough money to take care of your health care and all of that. So even if you are right now 55, even if you are 55 right now, you still have a 2x advantage, right? So my question to you is, do you want to have $233,000 in your retirement versus $112,000? I think the answer is easy for most of you. Okay. So, by the way, if you feel comfortable, we have category A, which is age 22, category B, age 40, category C, age 55. If you feel comfortable, put in the letter in the chat with the category that you are closest to. So me being 42 right now, I would put a letter B in the chat. I'm just really, really curious what we're looking at here. Come on, don't be shy. Yeah, asking people about their age is just not something they like. Okay, we have one very courageous person who's sharing with us. Heart 316 says he's in the B category, or she is in the B category, and so you and I were in the same boat. Okay, same boat. All right, let's go to the next slide. By the way, I create these slides with AI. Don't we live in a beautiful time where this is possible? Marcos, oh my gosh, you are 26 and you are getting this information now. Oh man, you have such an amazing future ahead of you. Because if you apply this, the power of compounding interest, one of the world wonders, right? Whether you do it with the S&P 500 or Bitcoin or a mix of it, you are in such a beautiful situation. I'm almost jealous. So stay on the stream, and definitely, Marcos, please, please, please do yourself the favor and go to my page, crypto.lifestyle, a 4-part video series that teaches you exactly how I have replaced a 6-figure income in my business with crypto. Okay, definitely go. It's just valuable information that you can apply no matter how you want to go. Okay, so what does Mana say? There does not seem to be a risk of any kind in an annuity. And if you need information, let me know. Yeah, so annuities are actually very safe investment vehicles, of course, if the underlying investment asset is safe. But yeah, looks like Mana is in a position where he helps people with annuities. So go to him if you are interested in that. Okay, so age-based advantage ratio. Let's look at that. Bitcoin's advantage over IRA decreases with age. That makes sense. Okay. In other words, the earlier you start investing in Bitcoin, the better it is for you. And what I want to look at here at this is that no matter what age you start at, and let's not forget I am here, there is still a big yellow rectangle for you that is worth it, because let's not forget this on the left hand side, our vertical axis, that is an X factor. So X times larger, the Bitcoin advantage is X times larger. So at no point in time, at least between the age of 22 and 55, is there a negative advantage to this. So every year of delay reduces the advantage. That makes sense. Age 40 is a critical threshold, because here you have a 10x advantage. And that's, again, that's my situation. So I'm very happy that I am realizing this right now. After age 50, advantage may not justify volatility risk. Let's try and understand what that means. Well, again, we're talking not about a lump sum that we invest. We're talking about investing $7,000 every year. Okay. And as with every investment, there are years in bear markets where the underlying asset that you invest in also decreases in value. So if we don't have enough runway to let our investments grow, then we also are exposed to the negative drawdown that we sometimes have in those bear cycles. Okay. And that is why if you are investing the $7,000 per year method after 50, you have an increased risk of being exposed to that volatility, because the 25% is a compound annual growth rate that factors in time where the negative years are getting basically equalized or compensated for by the overall positive evolution of the investment asset. But I have good news for you, because a lot of you are probably saying, well, I'm over 50, but I was smart and I prepared for my retirement. I will have retirement income, but I also have a lump sum of money available for me to invest, and I wonder what I should do with it. Should I put it into real estate? Should I buy a high risk stock? Should I go and buy an annuity with it, or should I consider Bitcoin? And I have at the very end of this presentation, I have something for you that looks at the lump sum investment scenario, which is quite frankly a very, very good one, if you ask me. Okay, let's see. Whoa, guys, we have 76 live viewers. It makes me so happy. So let's see here. Mana says there does not seem to be a risk of any kind in an annuity. And if you need information, let me know. Okay, Mana. Yep. By the way, I don't know Mana, so I cannot endorse him, but the guy looks like he knows what he's talking about. Okay, so we have another person that is in the A category. Congratulations for you. We have Hilljack, who says, better it is for the whales and ETF. Okay. Someone thinks annuities are expensive. Well, everything has its cost, RR. I mean, annuities are very predictable investment vehicles. So they do come at a certain expense. Who holds the most Bitcoin and why? I think currently is Michael Saylor. Well, there is, of course, the founder of Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto. He is, I believe, the one who holds most of it. And then right after him is Michael Saylor, who does Bitcoin leveraging institutionally, right? Because, and I'm going to talk about that in the future, because all of you can actually apply Michael Saylor style strategy to your own lives. I actually do that. So let me just open a small parenthesis and then we go back to this, okay? But if you never sell your Bitcoin and you responsibly borrow against it, responsibly, that is very important. So never more than a 20% loan to value ratio, then you can constantly borrow against your Bitcoin, keep growing your Bitcoin back. And we know that there's no income tax on loans, right? That is an approach, by the way, that I use in my life, but I'll create a separate stream about that. That is really, really cool. Okay. Hilljack says, will there be more than 21 million Bitcoin? No, never. And that's actually a very good question. The way Bitcoin was designed is that there will never be more than 21 million Bitcoin in circulation. It's simply impossible to have more, which makes it de facto a rare and finite thing that you can invest in. Because if you think about it, nothing is really truly finite, or even gold, right? Gold, we could potentially find more of it, or in the future, we could potentially do space mining where there's gold on other planets or comets, right? So just food for thought. So, okay, let's move on. Cool. Next slide, please. Okay, so age-based strategy framework. So I will have to say that this slide was co-created by myself and AI is less biased than I am, which is actually pretty nice. So AI, you should probably listen to the AI more than you should listen to me. But I think this is basically, let's look at this in a way where we say, okay, we have quite an objective opinion here, okay? So if you are between ages 22 and 30, it says, well, why don't you go in 70 to 90% Bitcoin and 10 to 30% IRA, so traditional. And then, of course, this is not a surprise. As you advance your age category, it wants you to have more exposure to the blue stuff. The blue stuff being the traditional stuff being the more predictable and safe stuff, right? So that is what AI would tell you, and is probably worth taking this in and applying it to you. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. I cannot tell you what to do with your money, but you could take a screenshot of this and then go to your financial advisor and ask him or her, hey, how do you see this? All I can tell you that I fall into this age category, and my approach looks much more like this one. As a matter of fact, my yellow goes until here, okay? But that's just me. And I think it's important to also learn and listen from someone who's walking their own talk. We don't have that enough on social media, and I'm different in that way. Okay, let's look at the chat. Okay, so please note, with Roth, the contributions and basis can be withdrawn penalty-free, tax-free at any time. I think that's true, because with the Roth approach, you pay your tax in advance. So there are moments where you are allowed to tap into your contributions penalty-free. But I think it's not for just about any reason. There has to be a reason. Again, I'm not a tax advisor, so but I'm sure Mana knows that, right? I'm new here. So Shadow says, I'm new here. Have you made money off of Bitcoin? Yes, I made quite a substantial amount of Bitcoin, because in 2016, I bought 4 Bitcoin and I didn't touch them for a very, very long time. So let me just say I was able to turn $8,000 into $500,000 just by being there in 2016 and then sitting on my hands, which is something we call hodling. Okay. And then at some point I looked at my wallet and I was like, whoa, I'm rich. And then I taught myself investing in DeFi, decentralized finance. That, by the way, is the free crypto.lifestyle course that basically tells you what I started doing. I'm doing a lot of things with crypto. I'm really well-rounded. Most people in crypto, they focus on just one approach. Nothing wrong with that. I just like to be exposed to a lot of that stuff. So great question, Shadow Walker. Thank you. So why does Bitcoin was developed for transactions? What happened to that? Yeah, lots of good questions, Hilljack. Just come back to my streams, because I just don't want to go on a tangent too much. But good questions you have there. Okay, so the next slide, the growth comparison over time. So we have, again, this is important to understand, we have $7,000 annual contribution starting at age 40, meaning every year you contribute $7,000 to your savings. Honestly, this is just another way of visualizing what can be done, right? So the gray dotted line is your contributions here. So that's here. And then the traditional savings approach is the blue line. And then the yellow line is, of course, the Bitcoin approach. Okay, so that's that. Next slide talks about the risk trade-off. Higher returns come with higher volatility. So this is actually a good slide, because we do have to think about risk. So that's actually there. The catch is here. If you want to ask what's the catch is this one, right? That the S&P 500, which is most likely the major component of your IRA approach, is 17% annual volatility versus Bitcoin 150%. A typical drawdown of a S&P 500, 34% versus a typical max drawdown in Bitcoin of 83%. And then here in S&P 500, we have 5 years to recover from major crashes. And in Bitcoin, 2 to 3 years to recover from major crashes. Now, I think there needs to be a few things said here for nuance. First of all, there are also firms that specialize on Bitcoin IRA investments. Okay, so it doesn't mean if you wanted to invest in Bitcoin but have it under the legal framework of an IRA, it is possible. Of course, you have your legal maximum of contributions that you can make per year, so that is another thing. But you can harbor some of your Bitcoin investments in an IRA structure. The other thing that I wanted to touch on is this 83% maximum drawdown. I don't think that is going to be the case anymore because Bitcoin starts to mature, and with a maturing comes less volatility. So especially this year, as we have, I would say this year really marks the mainstream mass adoption moment for Bitcoin, where we actually probably have more institutional investors in Bitcoin than individuals being referred to as retail, right? So I personally think that Bitcoin's drawdown will be no bigger than 40% anymore. I may be wrong. I don't have a crystal ball, but that's my personal opinion. And again, I may be completely off. Yeah, let me look at. Yeah, okay. So Hilljack still has lots of good questions. But let's move on. Let's move on to the next slide. So the break-even analysis here. When does Bitcoin become compelling? So let's see what we have here. So we have the... Nope, stay there. Okay, one moment. Okay, I think I'm good now. So here the red line is the growth of your traditional investment. So Bitcoin return needed to match IRA, okay? And then, of course, a conservative approach of Bitcoin with a 15% annual growth rate. That is the green line. And then a moderate approach is 25% annual growth rate. That is the yellow line. And as stated, as pointed out earlier, for good reasons, by the way, honestly, the optimistic and realistic approach using, it's not even on this chart, using 35% or even more. I mean, you know, in other words, there is Bitcoin will never break even with this. You know, I don't see it happening. So Bitcoin needs only 9.1% return to match the IRA, which I think this is just way too low. We would never come to a break-even point. So even a conservative Bitcoin of 15% beats the optimistic IRA of 12%. And then, of course, yeah, the math is overwhelmingly favorable for younger investors. That makes perfect sense. Yeah, let's go to the next slide. So this, okay, so you understand now, my dear viewers, that you have essentially, the earlier you start investing, the better. And there is a time frame that we looked at anywhere from between 22 and being 55, where it kind of makes sense, right? You go from 99xing to so basically doubling your money, depending on when you want to invest. But there are going to be people who say again, I'm a senior, I'm over 50, I have made arrangements for a retirement income. So congratulations to you, that's great. But I also have a lump sum of money available to me that I could invest. What would happen if I invested a lump sum into Bitcoin over the next 5 years? And here is what could happen, right? So here's what could happen. If you have a lump sum of $50,000 and you invested that in Bitcoin at an assumed 25% annual growth rate, then you could still make a 1.9x of your money. 1.9x. So in other words, almost $200,000, so $1.2 million. Okay, versus the same lump sum investment into traditional vehicles, you could you could double it. You could get to $100,000 versus $200,000. So this is still very, very favorable here to maybe do that, because you have a 1.9x advantage on the short-term horizon, right? Be careful. There's also a 65% chance of loss with the Bitcoin volatility risk. Yeah, I mean, if you have a lump sum to invest and you are 25 years old, I mean, good golly, that's like, look, that's crazy, right? You can turn $50,000 into 13 million. And now some of you will say, well, I don't know about that. That seems a little far-fetched. Well, I have a Bitcoin lump sum investment calculator that backs up these numbers, right? And I think that anyone who wants that calculator should just go to my landing page, crypto.lifestyle, right now. And in return, you will get the 4-part video series. But anyone who joins the mailing list today will also get a link to that Bitcoin lump sum investment calculator. And then you can kind of, let me actually see if I can give you a preview of it, because it's really a nice, a nice calculator. Just give me a moment to bring it up. Thank you, Hilljack. Thank you, Hilljack. We'll talk more. You have lots of good questions. I just cannot address all of them here on the stream. Okay, so let me show you that calculator. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so essentially I built this, and here, let's just say you have $1,000, just to keep things simple. You have $1,000 to invest, and you have a 5-year investment time horizon, and we're clicking the conservative route, so the 25 annual compound growth rate. So after 5 years, your projected final value would be $3,052, right? So if we look at the detailed analysis, this is what that would look like. So in other words, you could, with a conservative approach, turn $1,000 into $3,000. Okay. So what if I click the moderate here of a 110% annual growth rate? That would, I mean, it's absolutely crazy, but is quite possible that could still happen, right? Because yes, if we talk about a time frame of 20-25 years, we need to look at a compound annual growth rate of between 15 and 30%. But if we're only looking at the next 5 years, you know, we can actually look at the moderate approach here, or even if we wanted at the aggressive one. It's definitely possible that this could happen. Bitcoin has done this in the past. You know, I personally believe that within the next 5 years, Bitcoin will hit $1 million, which is a 10x from here where we are. Okay, so but let me go to the conservative approach now, and let me put this to $10,000. Let's just say, you know, let's just see what happens here. So if you, well, wait, 10,000, not 9,000. Calculate. Okay. So, and we go to the moderate approach. If I have a lump sum of $10,000 now, it could turn into $408,000 within 5 years. Okay. So that's all. Yeah, that's it for today. I'm gonna go look through your questions and comments now because there's been a few. Let me bring this to this screen. Okay. Oh, actually, don't go anywhere because I believe that Andrea created a song for us that we can enjoy it to kind of ease out of our live stream. Okay, put your questions in the chat now, please. Hilljack says, don't invest in something you don't fully understand. I agree with that. I mean, I absolutely agree with that. Listen to Hilljack. If someone has almost half a Bitcoin, what will they have in 5 to 10 years? Yeah, I mean, if you have half a Bitcoin right now, it's the equivalent of having of investing a lump sum of $50,000 into Bitcoin right now. So let's look at that again. Essentially, you put 50,000 into this calculator, and then, yeah, even in the conservative model, within 5 years, you would have $150,000. Okay. And in the moderate approach, you would have over $2 million and you can retire. I might do that. I think I am doing that. I am doing that. Okay. Otherwise, I wouldn't be qualified to host this stream, to be quite honest with you. JD, great question, by the way. Okay, so let me finish. Well, we'll actually, let me load up my the song that we're gonna listen to is here. So we're going to listen to that song here in a moment. That Andrea, for all of those who are joining our Crypto Alliance community, with, you know, that happens by just going to crypto.lifestyle. You will be exposed to not only my monetary approach, but also Andrea's mindset and Andrea's wellness approach. So as part of that, she prepares these amazing songs for us to enjoy. And we're about to listen to one, but let's just go through all of the links first, of all of the comments first. You've been very interactive today. I thank you so much for that. Yeah, before we listen to this song, let me just repeat that I'm a very biased person. I really this is not a stream that is recommended for you to watch if you want to listen to someone who has a very balanced, objective approach. No, this is a pro crypto opinion. This is an opinion of someone who is a risk taker in life and who is willing to sometimes really bet on something for extremely handsome returns, or not. But everything I have achieved in life, I have always achieved because I was willing to bet on something that I believe in. And with what I am learning about Bitcoin, and I actually don't just learn online, I go to the Bitcoin conference yearly, and I've started going to the hardcore Bitcoin walks, as they call them, right? From everything that I know, I'm very confident that it's a smart way to allocate some level of your savings to Bitcoin. That's what I am proposing here. Okay, and I think we're ready. Andrea, do you want me to play the first one or the second one? The new one, Stay in the Fight. I like to stay in the fight. Let me start with the Stay in the Fight. Folks, this is music made by Andrea. Enjoy it. You can still post your ideas in the chat as we listen to this music. Please give Andrea feedback. She puts a lot of effort and time into the song creation, and every artist likes feedback. Of course, every artist likes feedback. So, Stay in the Fight by Andrea Ferguson. Here we go.
You didn't come here to be calmed. You came to be calibrated. This is a nervous system upgrade. You may feel pressure, doubt, volatility, or the sense that your timing might cost you. But inside those moments, there's a choice. The mind may spiral, but the body knows. It remembers how to return, how to act without panic, how to hold the line. Hold the line. How to hold the line. Hold the line. Stay in the fight. Stay in the fight. This isn't escape. Clarify for movement. Stay in the fight without losing yourself. Speak those mantras. You will walk through the fire. Some are built for silence. You be built for action. There's no right order, just what you need now. So before you dive in, pause. Feel your breath. Feel your weight. Know that this is not entertainment. It's training. Training. And you're already ready. You're already ready. You're already ready.
Ah, nice, nice, nice. That was a great song to ease out of this stream, because we had so much about money, money, money. And yeah, we gotta be staying in the fight to make the best for our financial situation and our health and our wellness. So definitely staying in the fight is what matters. Don't forget, I want you to go to crypto.lifestyle. It's a website. You go there, you enter your information, and you get a free 4-part video series where I show you exactly how I cash flow my 6 figures in crypto. All right. That's my gift for you. Thank you for taking the time to be with me, and I'll see you very, very soon on this platform. Bye bye for now.